two black veterans had only wanted a quiet breakfast together until a deputy sheriff burst in. He accused them of loitering and received a lesson he would never forget. The small sign for Miles' Diner flickered beneath the morning light, tucked just off Highway 41 in Clarksville, Tennessee. It was nothing fancy, just the kind of place where people knew your name, your usual coffee order, and when your grandkids made the honor roll. The tables were worn but clean. The red vinyl booths had been patched here and there with duct tape. The air carried the steady comfort of bacon on the griddle and bread turning golden. Behind the counter, Jolene, who had been a fixture there for longer than most could remember, hummed softly while refilling the sugar jars. Darnell Hughes pushed open the door with a quiet presence that entered the room before he spoke. He wore an old military jacket and a faded Desert Storm veteran cap, and he moved with the slight limp that had stayed with him after his final tour. Waiting in the corner booth was his old friend from overseas, Andre Wallace, a Marine Corps medic, still lean, still sharp as he had been at 25. He was already nursing a cup of black coffee and scrolling through photos of his grandson on his phone. "Thought you were gonna stand me up," Andre said with a smile, not looking up. Darnell chuckled as he eased onto the bench. "Man, you know I don't move fast unless somebody's shooting." They laughed, and it was not an ordinary laugh. It was the deep, knowing sound that comes from two men who had survived too much to take an ordinary morning for granted. They settled into easy conversation about their children, their stiffening knees, old appointments at the VA, and that day in Baghdad when Andre had stitched a wounded man together with dental floss and quiet prayer. "Remember the look on Lieutenant Free's face when you poured whiskey over the wound like it was peroxide?" Darnell asked, nearly choking on his biscuit. Andre shook his head. "Man looked like you'd slapped his mother." But they were not trying to impress anyone. This was not about war stories or glory. These were simply two men who had seen too much, finally stealing a moment to breathe. Jolene passed by with a warm smile. "More coffee?" "Keep it coming," Darnell said, lifting his cup. "We're not going anywhere." Just as she turned, the bell above the door rang again. A broad-shouldered man in a sheriff's deputy uniform stepped inside. Deputy Kyle Wrench. He did not smile or scan the room with curiosity. His eyes moved quickly, then locked onto the back booth. He walked straight toward them, one hand resting a little too near his belt. Andre noticed. Darnell's expression tightened, though he did not move. Jolene hesitated by the coffee urn, watching. Wrench cleared his throat. "Do you have identification?" No greeting, no explanation, just that. Andre blinked. "I'm sorry." "Identification," Wrench repeated. "I got a call about two suspicious men loitering outside the restaurant. Need to confirm who you are." Darnell sat straighter, voice calm but edged. "We've been sitting here eating breakfast. What exactly is the problem?" Wrench gave no answer. His hand drifted closer to his radio. Jolene stepped forward, her voice low yet steady. "Deputy, these men are regulars. They've been coming here for years." Wrench ignored her. Andre leaned back, arms folding across his chest. "We haven't done anything. You sure you're in the right place?" The air in the diner changed. Conversations at nearby tables stilled. Eyes turned their way. Wrench stood far enough from the booth to make the moment feel like a standoff. His gaze stayed hard on both men, jaw set. Andre set his coffee cup down slowly. "Let me be clear," he said, loud enough for others to hear. "Somebody called the police because two black veterans were sitting here eating breakfast. That's it. I'm responding to a call," Wrench said. "That's all." Darnell kept his hands visible. "You said we were loitering. Did the call claim we were armed, causing trouble, or threatening anyone?" Wrench sidestepped the question. "I need your IDs." Andre's voice sharpened. "Are we being detained?" The question hung in the quiet room. At the counter, Bianca Ramirez, a young woman in town visiting her grandmother, had been filming a light-hearted TikTok of her breakfast. She quietly turned the camera back on, capturing the tension without a word. Andre sighed. "Officer, I'm an Army veteran. Andre here served as a Marine medic. We come here whenever we can. This is our place. We're not loitering. We're just catching up." Wrench finally blinked. "You got a problem showing your ID?" "I got a problem with you walking straight to us and ignoring everyone else," Andre answered. "You didn't ask the staff. You didn't speak to a single other person." Wrench glanced around the diner, at middle-aged couples, older farmers in faded John Deere caps, 2 construction workers. Every eye was on them now. Some curious, others heavy with discomfort. An older man at the next booth rose slowly and walked over. "Are they bothering you?" he asked, though his tone carried more disbelief than concern. "No, they're not bothering anyone," Jolene said firmly, raising her voice. "They're customers, veterans. You're the one stirring things up, officer." "Sir, ma'am, please stay out of this," Wrench warned. On Bianca's phone, the live stream continued in silence. Comments began flooding in. Darnell met Wrench's eyes and reached slowly into his pocket. "You want identification? All right, here it is." He laid his worn military ID on the table, face up. Andre did the same. "Here's mine, since this apparently counts as suspicious behavior now." Wrench stared at the cards for a long moment without touching them. Then he muttered, "I'll have to call this in." Andre let out a sharp breath. "Call whoever you need to. We're not going anywhere." Wrench lifted his radio. Before he could speak, the diner door opened again. Lieutenant Drury, the senior officer on duty, stepped inside. In his 60s, uniform crisp, eyes weary, he took one look at the scene and understood exactly what had unfolded. "Wrench," Drury said, voice firm as he approached. "Stand down." "I was responding to a call. I heard the recording," Drury cut in. "Someone phoned from a blocked number and reported 2 black men standing outside, looking out of place. Nothing about weapons. Nothing about threats. You escalated it." Drury turned to the booth and nodded once. "Mr. Hughes, Mr. Wallace, I apologize." Andre leaned back. "Guess we weren't invisible after all." Drury glanced at the deputy. "These men don't need to show me anything. I've seen both of you at the Memorial Day ceremony. You read the names last year, if I recall." Darnell gave a slow nod. "We remember." The silence that followed was not forgiveness. It was something heavier. Andre leaned forward, elbows resting on the old formica. His voice was quiet, but precise. The tone of a man who had given this speech too many times before. "Deputy, Tennessee law says I can't be forced to show identification unless I'm suspected of a specific crime. You never named one. We're eating eggs, not robbing the place." Wrench's eyes flicked toward Drury, but the lieutenant did not move. Instead, he turned to Jolene. "Ma'am, did these gentlemen cause any trouble before I arrived?" "The only problem," Jolene said, pouring fresh coffee into Darnell's cup with a steady hand, "is they're running low on coffee." The sound of the pot and the soft clink of ceramic suddenly filled the room. Bianca kept recording from her stool, murmuring softly into her stream. Comments poured across the screen, heart emojis, messages of support, disbelief. Andre looked toward her phone and raised an eyebrow. She nodded once, silent. Darnell's voice came low and steady, carrying the weight of years. "Deputy Wrench, I was born just down the road from here. I bled on foreign soil. I came home and built roofs on houses you pass every day. The only thing out of place is how you're treating us." Wrench's face flushed. "I'm following procedure." "Procedure says discretion matters too," Drury said, stepping closer. "You bypassed the staff, ignored witnesses, and singled out 2 men without cause. That opens the door to civil action against you and the department." The word landed heavily. Wrench swallowed. "I didn't mean—" "You meant exactly what you did," Andre said. "You don't get to look at us and decide we're a threat before we even open our mouths. We know how this goes." A deeper quiet settled over the diner. Even the cook in the back had stopped. At the next table, Mr. Ferguson cleared his throat. "Lieutenant, my son's in the Army Reserve. These men wear the same uniform he does. It doesn't sit right, treating them like suspects." Drury nodded. "Thank you, sir." Andre looked around the room, then spoke so everyone could hear. "This isn't just about us. It's about any child who grows up believing a badge will always see him as a threat because of the color of his skin. We're grown. We can take it. But what happens to the next kid when nobody's filming?" Jolene's eyes glistened. On Bianca's screen, the chat overflowed with support. Wrench shifted his weight, gaze dropping. "Maybe I misread the situation." "Maybe you did," Darnell said quietly. "You didn't ask questions. You walked in like we were already guilty. That's not a misunderstanding. That's an assumption." Drury placed a hand on Wrench's shoulder. "Step outside with me." As they passed, Bianca's phone caught Wrench's low voice. "I need to rethink how I handle calls like this. A lawsuit can end a career faster than a promotion builds one." The door closed behind them. For a moment, the diner felt like it could finally breathe again. Andre let out a slow breath. "Swear, every few months it's the same script, just a different scene." Darnell rubbed his jaw, a tired half-smile forming. "At least we got fresh coffee this time." They shared a quiet laugh, the kind that carried both weariness and understanding. Bianca approached their booth. "I'm live," she said softly. "Want me to stop?" Andre shook his head. "Keep it going. Sunlight's still the best disinfectant." Jolene returned with 2 warm cinnamon rolls. "On the house, boys. Eat. The lieutenant will handle his deputy." Darnell closed his eyes for a moment, breathing in the sweet warmth. "Thank you." Through the window, they watched Wrench pacing outside, while Drury spoke with steady, measured gestures. Highway traffic continued its steady rush, indifferent to the morning unfolding inside. Andre pulled out his phone. "Maybe we should call the local paper before somebody spins it." Darnell shrugged. "Let's see what Drury does first. Man's got sense. If he handles it right, maybe we spare everyone the circus." Andre nodded, already typing. "Still texting my lawyer's office, just in case." Bianca glanced at her screen. "Folks online are offering to cover your breakfast. Some want to start a legal fund." Darnell's smile was gentle but firm. "We appreciate it, but we're not asking for money. We're asking for respect." Jolene paused while refilling the sugar jar. "World might turn a little kinder if more people thought that way." A siren rose and faded in the distance. Andre watched Wrench through the glass. "You think he's learning anything out there?" "Hard lessons have a way of sticking," Darnell said. "Depends whether he wants to change or just survive the day." Andre studied his friend's face, the lines carved by sand and time and too many disappointments. He lifted his cinnamon roll in a small, quiet salute. Darnell touched his cup to it with a soft clink. The door opened once more. Lieutenant Drury returned alone, shoulders straight. Deputy Wrench remained outside beside his patrol car, face turned toward the windows. Drury walked straight to their booth. "Gentlemen," he said, voice steady but softer now. "I've spoken with Deputy Wrench. He's being placed on administrative leave while we review the incident." Andre raised an eyebrow. "Suspension?" "Administrative leave pending internal review," Drury confirmed. "I'll be honest, he's young. That doesn't excuse how he handled this." Darnell nodded slowly. "I appreciate you saying that out loud." Before Drury could continue, Jolene spoke from behind the counter, her voice rising for the first time. "No offense, Lieutenant, but this isn't the first time that boy's been quick on the draw. Not long ago, he accused a delivery driver of stealing packages just because the man looked unfamiliar. No apology. Just left when it didn't add up." Drury frowned. "You didn't file a report?" "Didn't think anyone would listen," she said, twisting a dish towel between her hands. "Maybe I should have." The room felt heavier now. Mrs. Ferguson spoke gently from her booth. "We've seen these 2 men come in here for years, always respectful, always polite. If folks can't sit down to breakfast in peace because of their skin, something's wrong in this town. Bianca kept the camera moving slowly, catching the quiet nods and furrowed brows around the room. "This video's going to wake some people up," she said softly. Drury looked down at his notepad, thumb tracing the edge. "I can't speak for what people assume, but I promise this department needs better training. Maybe this is where it starts." Andre met his eyes. "Training is one thing, accountability is another." Drury nodded. "I agree." Bianca asked, "Will the review be public?" "I can't say yet," Drury answered. "But I'll recommend transparency. People deserve to know when we get it wrong." Darnell and Andre exchanged a long look, the kind shared by men who had lived this conversation too many times, and still hoped this time might matter more. Darnell's voice was measured. "We're not angry with you, Lieutenant Tom." "Lieutenant, sir. We're just tired." Andre added, "Tired doesn't mean silent." Bianca looked up from her phone. "People online are already asking for his badge number." Drury raised an eyebrow. "They can have it. It's public record." Andre smiled faintly and shook his head. "That's how trust gets rebuilt. One honest step at a time." Drury turned to leave, then paused at the door. "We'll be in touch." When the door closed behind him, the diner felt different, like pressure had been released, yet the air still carried its weight. Andre exhaled. "I swear, every few months the same script plays out." Darnell rubbed the back of his neck. "At least this time we got refills." They shared another tired laugh. Bianca slipped off her stool and came closer. "I'm live," she said again. "Should I cut it?" Andre shook his head. "Keep going. The light helps." Jolene set 2 fresh cinnamon rolls on their table. "On the house. Eat up. Lieutenant will sort the deputy out." Through the window they watched Wrench pacing, while Drury spoke with steady hands, like an older brother delivering hard truth. Traffic moved steadily along the highway, life continuing its indifferent rhythm. Back at the booth, Andre pulled out his phone. "Think we ought to call the paper? Get ahead of any twisting." Darnell shrugged. "Let's see what Drury does. He's got sense. Maybe we avoid the circus." Andre nodded, already typing. "Still messaging my lawyer's office, just in case." Bianca checked her screen. "People are offering to buy your breakfast. Some want to start a legal fund." Darnell's smile was gentle. "We're grateful, but we didn't ask for money. We asked for respect." Jolene returned to refill the sugar jar, her voice soft. "World would turn gentler if more folks thought that way." A siren rose and faded somewhere beyond the glass. Andre watched Wrench through the window. "You think he's learning anything?" "Hard lessons stick," Darnell said. "Depends if he wants to change or just get through the day." Andre studied his friend's face, the lines left by deserts, years, and quiet disappointments. He lifted his cinnamon roll in a small salute. Darnell touched his cup against it with a soft clink. The door opened again. This time it was not Wrench. A middle-aged black man in a UPS uniform stepped inside, looking uncertain. Jolene greeted him with a warm smile. "We're open, honey." He nodded and moved toward the counter, his eyes lingering a moment longer on the booth. He said nothing, but the look he gave them spoke volumes. Darnell glanced at Andre. "He felt it, didn't he? You saw it." "Every black man in this country knows the script," Darnell answered quietly. "Even when we wish we didn't." A woman from a booth near the back stood and walked over. Her short blonde hair framed a face that looked uneasy. Her name tag read Marshall. She worked at the antique shop down the street. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry you had to go through that," she said, voice awkward. "I was right there. I should have spoken up sooner," Andre answered without hesitation. "Better late than never." She smiled faintly and returned to her seat, conflict still visible in her expression. Andre leaned forward, voice low. "What gets me is he looked at us and saw a threat. Didn't see the scars, the years, the service, just the skin." Darnell didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his wallet, pulled out his military ID, and laid it on the table between them. You know what this card means to me. It means I gave this country more than it ever gave me. I kept my head down. I did what I was told. I buried friends younger than my own son. And still some kid with a badge can walk in and treat me like I'm nothing. He stared at the card, then pulled his own ID from his pocket and set it beside Darnell's. Two different branches, the same story. "Man's been a cop less time than I served," Darnell said, voice calm but heavy. "Gave this country more years than he's worn that badge, and he still needed 30 seconds to decide who we were." Bianca had paused her stream but still held her phone. She pressed record again. "I'm not doing this for likes," Andre said. "People need to hear that line. They need to sit with it." Bianca nodded. "It's going to reach more folks than you think." Near the door, Miles, the UPS driver, finally spoke. "If it means anything, I saw the last part from outside before I came in. Almost kept walking, but watching how you handled it made me stay." Andre looked surprised. "You were going to leave?" Miles shrugged. "Didn't want to be next." Nobody spoke for a moment. The weight of that truth lingered. Darnell turned to him. "Glad you stayed. Fear's loud," Darnell said. "Presence is stronger." The door opened once more. A teenager, maybe 17, with a wrinkled notebook in one hand and a phone in the other, approached their booth. His voice trembled. "My name's Terrence. I go to the high school down the street. I saw the video online. Would it be all right if I wrote about what happened for the school paper?" Andre looked at Darnell. Darnell gave a small nod. Andre turned back to the boy. "You going to tell the truth?" "Yes, sir," Terrence answered, eyes brightening like someone had handed him a mission. What none of them knew yet was that the story was already moving faster than any school paper could keep up. Bianca's phone vibrated as she returned to the counter. Her stream had barely been running when notifications exploded. She opened the comments, eyes widening at the flood of reactions. "Where is this? Whoa, for? We need badge numbers now. These men are heroes." "Shared on Facebook. It's blowing up." She turned the screen toward Darnell and Andre. "You two are trending. I mean really trending." Andre laughed without looking up. "Funny how fast the world finds you when you're not looking for it." Darnell stayed quiet, thumb tracing the edge of his ID card. Bianca turned her phone so they could see. "Over 60,000 views already." Miles let out a low whistle from near the door. "That's more than the whole town's population." The television above the counter, usually tuned to weather or high school sports, had been switched to the local news. Even without sound, the headline was clear. "Local officers confront black veterans. Cell phone video emerges." Bianca's mouth fell open. "You're already on Channel 9. Andre looked up. "We haven't even left the booth." "Somebody tagged you," she said. "It's everywhere now. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, Facebook," Jolene murmured. "Lord have mercy." While carefully packing a to-go order, Darnell finally spoke, voice serious. "This could help us or make us targets." Andre nodded. "Risky either way. At least we didn't let it slide." Bianca's phone lit up with an incoming call. She answered on speaker. "Bianca Ramirez." A professional female voice came through. "This is Tanya Jefferson from WKR News in Nashville. We saw your video. We'd like to do a live interview. We can come to you." Bianca blinked. "I'm not the story. It's the two men in the booth." A pause. "Would they be willing to speak on camera?" Andre tilted his head. "Tell her we'll think about it." Bianca relayed the message. Tanya responded. "Understood. Please don't leave the diner yet. We're sending a crew." She hung up. Cheeks flushed. "Wow, this escalated fast." Jolene exhaled, grabbing more napkins. "If they're bringing a news van into the parking lot, at least let me fix my hair first." A small laugh moved through the booth. The tension that had gripped the room was loosening, breath by breath. But then Andre noticed a man sitting near the window, rigid posture, eyes that had seen too much, and liked little of it. Most folks knew him as Price, a Korean War veteran who rarely spoke and always sat alone. He rose slowly, walked to their booth with quiet certainty, and looked between the two men. "What that deputy did," he said, voice rough as gravel. "I didn't like it one bit." He reached into his coat, pulled out a faded, frayed military patch, and laid it gently on the table. "You earned that breakfast," he said, "and a whole lot more." Andre picked up the patch, turned it once, then nodded. "Thank you." Price didn't wait for applause. He returned to his seat and looked out the window as if nothing had happened. Bianca whispered, "That part's going in the video." Andre chuckled. "Leave the man alone. He'll haunt your comment section." More people began approaching. Quiet thanks. Handshakes. Someone offered to pay their bill. Another handed Jolene cash to cover their next several visits. The view count kept climbing. Miles checked his phone near the door. "You two don't even need the news van anymore. You're already making headlines." Andre looked at Darnell. "Ever think a cinnamon roll could cause this much trouble?" Darnell smiled faintly. "Wasn't the roll. It was the patience of d'impotente." Outside, a news van with the WKR logo pulled into the lot. A cameraman stepped out, adjusting his tripod. Inside Miles' diner, two old friends finished their coffee in the booth they had claimed for years. The world had shifted around them, but they had not moved. As cameras rolled and the internet mobilized, the sheriff's department was not staying silent either. Their next move would raise even more questions. The moment the news crew crossed the threshold, the temperature in the room changed. Not in degrees, but in feeling. Silence returned, thick and expectant, as if everyone suddenly understood they were part of something larger. The cameraman set up near the entrance while the reporter, a serious woman in a blazer too formal for Clarksville, introduced herself as Denise Larkin from WKR News. She approached Bianca first, placing a microphone gently near her. "We're live in 3, she said with professional courtesy. "Are the gentlemen comfortable with the camera?" Andre leaned forward, already weary of the spotlight. "Only if we can speak for ourselves." Denise offered a small smile. "That's exactly the plan. Let's keep it brief." She turned to the lens. "We're reporting live from Miles' Diner in Clarksville, where a video of an incident involving 2 black veterans and a sheriff's deputy has gone viral in the last hour. With us are Sergeant Darnell Hughes, Army veteran, and Andre Wallace, former Marine Corps medic. Gentlemen, thank you for speaking with us. Andre, can you tell us what happened this morning?" Darnell leaned slightly forward. "We came here for breakfast. We do that from time to time. This morning, somebody made a call reporting suspicious activity. Next thing we knew, Deputy Wrench walked in demanding our IDs with no explanation. He didn't speak to anyone else, didn't assess the situation. Came straight to us." Denise asked, "Do you feel you were profiled?" Andre didn't hesitate. "It's not a feeling. It was profiling. That's what it looks like when you assume guilt based on how someone looks instead of what they're doing." Before Denise could respond, the diner door opened again. Sheriff Nolan King, head of the county department, stepped inside. In his 50s, skin weathered from years of patrol, he wore boots instead of dress shoes and carried himself like a man who had chosen the job for life. He walked alone, no deputies, no press, only a sheriff in a uniform that looked older than some of his rookies. The entire restaurant turned. The camera swung toward him. He stopped beside the counter, met Darnell's and Andre's eyes, then turned to Denise. "Mind if I say something?" Denise gestured for the cameraman to keep rolling. "Go ahead." Sheriff King took 2 steps forward. "The video, every bit of it. I'll say this on the record. What happened should never have happened." Murmurs moved through the booths. He looked directly at Andre and Darnell. "I've reviewed Deputy Wrench's report. There are discrepancies between what he claimed and what's on that video. That tells me there's a problem, not just with judgment, but with mindset." Andre raised his eyebrows slightly. "Wrench has been placed on administrative leave while we conduct a full review." King continued. Not just of his actions, but of how we train and select our deputies. This isn't an isolated issue. It's systemic. We need to face that. Andre met the sheriff's eyes. That's the first thing you've said that sounds like progress. King glanced at the reporter. I'm not here to spin this. I'm here to fix it. He reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out a folded letter. I drafted a formal apology from the department. It'll be made public, but I wanted to give it to you two first. He extended the envelope. Darnell looked at it for a moment before accepting it. He didn't open it. He simply laid it on the table beside their IDs. The camera stayed steady, capturing every second. King continued. There's been talk online about protests, calls for firings. My response is simple. People have every right to be angry when trust is broken. It's not their job to stay calm. It's our job to listen. Bianca's eyes glistened behind her phone. Darnell spoke. Apologies are a start, but this community has seen these cycles before. Hearings, investigations, and nothing changes. What's going to be different this time? King looked him straight in the eyes. I'm inviting you both to help change it. Sit with my board. Speak to my academy class. Help write policy with us, if you're willing. Andre let out a dry laugh. Didn't expect to be offered a job over breakfast. You've earned it, King said, and we clearly need your voices. While that moment sparked something real inside the diner, another crowd was gathering outside, and not everyone had come to show support. The sun had climbed higher when Sheriff King left Miles' diner. A small crowd had formed in the parking lot, drawn by the news vans and the viral video now spreading on phones. Some faces showed curiosity, others anger, some confusion. A few held hastily made signs. Respect veterans. Accountability now. Inside, the atmosphere had shifted again. No longer tense, now eyes watchful, expectant. Sheriff King stopped just outside the doors. The news cameras followed. He didn't go back inside. Instead, he turned to the crowd, holding the same letter he had given Darnell and Andre. I'm going to read this publicly, he said, voice firm but deliberate. He unfolded the paper. To Sergeant Darnell Hughes and former Marine Corps medic Andre Wallace, on behalf of the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department, I offer my sincere apology for the way you were treated today. You deserved better. Better respect. Better judgment. Better service from those sworn to protect you. We recognize your decades of sacrifice and honor for this country, and we regret that our actions did not reflect the gratitude and fairness you are owed. We will review this incident thoroughly, not only to determine individual accountability, but to rebuild the trust we have damaged. You did not ask for this moment, but your strength in it has reminded us all what true service, dignity, and patience truly mean. He signed it, Sheriff Nolan King. When he finished, silence held the crowd for a breath. Then someone began to clap. Another joined. Soon the sound moved through the parking lot, not loud, but steady and sincere. Inside, Andre watched through the window, arms crossed. You think it's real? He asked quietly. Darnell shrugged. Seems like it. At least for now. Bianca wiped her eyes and turned her phone so they could see the live chat. I'm crying. That's the kind of sheriff every town needs. These men are powerful. Without raising his voice, Andre said, Send that to Congress. Jolene approached with a brown paper bag and 2 coffees to go. I know you're not leaving yet, she said, setting them on the table. But when you do, breakfast is covered for your next 10 visits. Darnell smiled. That's a lot of pancakes. Jolene raised an eyebrow. Figured you earned it. From the booth behind them, a voice spoke up. Marcia, the antique shop worker who had apologized earlier, stood and walked over holding something folded in her hands. My dad served in Vietnam, she said, opening a small, weathered case. He didn't trust many people. When he passed, he left me this flag. I always said I'd give it to someone who reminded me of him. Inside the case lay a perfectly folded American flag, faded but clean, the kind given at military funerals. I want you both to have it, she said, looking at Andre and Darnell, to remind you that not everyone forgets who really protects this country. Andre stood. Ma'am, we can't accept that. Yes, you can, she insisted gently, because my dad would have wanted it with someone who knows what it means. Andre accepted the case with care and nodded. Thank you. Before anyone could say more, a tall man entered the diner. He had a military-style haircut and wore a shirt with the Sheriff's Department logo. His expression was unreadable. For a moment, everything froze again. He walked to their booth and extended his hand. I'm Deputy Russell Vega. I worked with Wrench. I saw the video, and I'm sorry. Andre studied him. I appreciate that. Russell lowered his voice. I don't think what happened reflects all of us, but I know saying that doesn't mean much unless we back it up. Darnell shook his hand. Then back it up. Every day. With every call. Russell nodded and left quietly, without the cameras following. Bianca captured the final image of Sheriff King shaking hands with people in the crowd outside. Someone mentioned a community meeting would happen soon. A few were skeptical, but no one shouted. No one stormed off. It was quiet. Not perfect, but real. Andre and Darnell finally stood, IDs and the flag case in their hands. Andre said, Never thought a plate of eggs would turn into a national conversation. Darnell smiled, a little wry. Life's funny that way. Gives you a mess and asks if you're going to clean it up or just stare at it. Andre nodded. We clean it up. As the crowd thinned and the images kept spreading, the real question remained. What would people remember tomorrow when the cameras were gone? The parking lot emptied slowly, like steam rising from pavement after rain. The crowd, the cameras, the signs, all of it faded one by one. Yet Miles' diner stood exactly where it always had, with the same cracked sidewalk, the same rusted screen door, the same smell of fryer grease clinging to the walls. But something inside had changed. Darnell and Andre remained in their booth for a while longer. The table was empty now, only two men sitting in silence, the echo of the morning still hanging between them. Andre leaned back and stretched his shoulders. You think it's really over? Darnell watched the last news van pull away. It's never really over, but sometimes you get to breathe. Bianca packed her gear and walked over, hesitating like someone leaving a family gathering. I just wanted to thank you both, she said. Not just for what you said, but how you said it. You didn't yell. You didn't curse. You didn't flinch. Andre smiled. I've done all that before. Never worked as well as simply knowing your rights. Darnell added, You kept that camera steady. That mattered too. Bianca lifted her phone. This thing isn't about going viral. It's about making sure people can't say, well, maybe it didn't happen that way. Now they know exactly how it happened. Before she could turn to leave, Darnell stopped her. Tag us if you post something new, but don't let them turn this into a story about us. It's about something bigger. Bianca nodded, eyes thoughtful. Yeah, I understand that now. Jolene approached with 2 glasses of water and sat across from them, apron wrinkled, face tired, but proud. You know, that was the first time in years I've seen a sheriff apologize to someone inside this restaurant. Darnell took a sip. Still waiting to see if the apology sticks, he said, glancing out the window. You think the town's going to keep talking about this? Andre answered without looking up. They already are. Across the street, 2 teenagers pointed at their phones, nodding toward Miles' diner as if it had become a landmark overnight. Inside, a couple near the window whispered while replaying Bianca's video on a tablet between bites of pie. The tension had faded, but curiosity had taken its place. Andre noticed too. We've become the story people tell at dinner tables. Did you hear what happened at Miles' diner today? Darnell leaned forward. Good. Let them tell it. Maybe it makes somebody stop and think before they act next time. Just then, the bell above the door rang again. A woman in her 60s entered, gray curls pinned neatly, holding a pie wrapped in foil. "I hope I'm not interrupting," she said. "I'm Mrs. Gwendolyn Pierce. I saw the video. I live a few blocks away." She set the pie on their table. "Didn't know what else to do, so I baked something. It's my late husband's recipe. He was Air Force. Passed some years back. He would have been furious if he'd seen what that deputy did to you." Darnell stood to shake her hand. "Thank you, ma'am." She looked around at the mostly empty tables. "This place feels different today. I hope it stays that way." Andre nodded. "We hope so too." She left as quickly as she had come, leaving behind the warm scent of sugar and butter. Jolene raised an eyebrow. "Better eat that pie before somebody else claims it." Andre laughed. "I'm not sharing." Darnell chuckled, but beneath the humor lay a quieter truth. Neither of them spoke aloud. They would have preferred to stay anonymous. They had never asked for attention. They had only wanted to sit in peace. Yet the impact was undeniable. Darnell pulled out his phone and opened his messages. One from his daughter. "Saw what happened. I'm proud of you, Dad. Call me later." Another from an unknown number. "Thank you for standing firm. You spoke for a lot of us today." Andre had messages too. One from a cousin in St. Louis. Another from a Marine buddy he hadn't spoken to in years. All saying the same thing. "We saw, we heard, we needed that." Jolene stood and gathered their glasses. "You boys need anything else?" Andre looked around the now quiet diner. "No, ma'am. Just glad to still be sitting here." But even as the day wound down, the lessons had only begun to settle. The restaurant emptied before noon. A few regulars lingered at the counter, watching in silence as the local news replayed the morning's video on a loop. Outside, the Miles Diner sign flickered beneath the sun, as if trying to keep pace with the times. Andre and Darnell stood at the edge of the parking lot, simply looking, not speaking, just watching. Finally, Andre broke the silence. "Remember in Iraq when that convoy commander stopped us for walking outside the wire?" Darnell gave a tired smile. "Said we were out of formation. You told him, 'I'm not lost. I'm just tired of marching in circles.'" "Got me written up," Darnell said. "Living. Yeah, but you said it anyway." They stood shoulder to shoulder the same way they had in places far more dangerous than a diner in Tennessee. Across the lot, Bianca loaded her gear into her car. In the distance, the sheriff's cruiser pulled away slowly. Everything was quiet now, except for the low rumble of delivery trucks and the occasional bark of a dog in the neighboring lot. Andre watched a boy on a bicycle ride past the diner and slow down. The child couldn't have been more than 12. He looked at them, not with fear or judgment, just curiosity. Andre raised a hand. The boy waved back and pedaled on. "You think he'll remember this day?" Andre asked. Darnell didn't hesitate. "If his parents talk to him about it, he will. If they pretend it never happened, he won't." Andre nodded slowly. "That's what scares me." Darnell turned toward him. "Let me ask you something. Why didn't you just hand over your ID and let the man go?" Andre met his eyes. "Because I'm tired of making myself small so other people feel comfortable. Because I served this country with both hands and one good knee, and I'm not going to act like I owe anyone proof of my humanity." Darnell placed a hand on his shoulder. "That's why I didn't stop you." They stood in silence again, the weight of the years and the morning resting between them. After a while, Andre spoke. "You know, this kind of thing wears on a person. One piece at a time. A comment here. A look there. A phone call that says we look suspicious for ordering pancakes." Darnell nodded. "It does. But when we answer with calm, with facts, with the history we carry, we build something instead." He looked toward the diner. "What happened today didn't surprise me, but the way this town reacted, that surprised me more than I expected." Andre let out a quiet laugh. "Yeah, That old man with the patch. Didn't see that coming. They laughed together then. Really laughed. Not to push the pain away, but because they were still here. Darnell glanced down at the folded letter from Sheriff King, still tucked in his jacket pocket. You think that apology matters? Andre shrugged. It matters to someone. Maybe the rookie who saw it. Maybe the next deputy who watches the video and thinks twice. Or maybe the kid on the bicycle. They turned back toward the diner. Inside, Jolene was wiping tables. Bianca's empty coffee cup sat on the counter beside the pie box Mrs. Pierce had brought. The folded flag rested there too, between their IDs. Darnell touched the glass with 2 fingers. This place is just a diner, but for a few hours it became something else. Andre nodded. It became a mirror for the whole country. What we reflect depends on us. They didn't need to say anything more. There were no grand speeches or final slogans, only a quiet agreement between 2 men who had seen war, raised families, paid taxes, buried friends, and endured more than most could imagine, only to be questioned for daring to eat breakfast in peace. And still they had shown up with calm, with knowledge, with dignity. Before they stepped away from the curb toward their cars, Darnell looked back one last time. Don't let silence speak for you, he said. Learn your rights, stay calm, and never forget, your story has power. Andre looked ahead, though the morning had begun with nothing more than eggs and coffee. If this story moved you, share it. Speak. Keep the conversation alive.